you believe that we started recording right in the middle of 2020 with all of the COVID and lockdowns going on around us, unable to meet up? So like many a young gentleman, we turned to the internet for our entertainment. Tried to find a place where we could meet up and talk about the good, the bad, and that time that Stu saw a pelican on the canal. In order to facilitate our dreams of answering all of the big questions in film, and after a few attempts at recording via other methods to various levels of success, we found Zencastr, a super easy web-based one-stop shop for recording. Log in and you're ready to record in a matter of seconds. It doesn't take a tech genius to get high quality audio or video. And on top of that, the one time we have had an issue, the fact that the multi-layered backups are stored locally means it's easily fixed all in browser. There are plenty of tools you need when you start podcasting, so let Zencastr take that headache away, as it offers a place to record, edit and distribute all from one website. Any lazy bones Jones can pick up and play and have studio quality audio or 4K video put out for the world to see when using Zencastr. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code CAGEFIGHTING and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. And now, hit the music. Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man Andy Gillard here. Hope you're all doing well out there right now.
Hi everyone, Stu here. I hope everyone's so fabulous. It's not even going to be a labour of love, it's just joyful. And ever since I watched this on Friday, I couldn't get it out of my head. And I will get into it in a minute, but I was so happy. And then we went to Fulham and won like that. And the Jets didn't play, so it didn't ruin my entire weekend. It's been almost perfect. So I'm in a really good mood for a change.
That's an excellent week. And it's looking exceptionally Christmassy from what I can see here, Stu, with your Wolves Santa bobblehead and all the tinsel. My office isn't Christmassy in the slightest. Downstairs he's looking a bit Christmassy now. But like I'm starting to slowly edge towards Christmas. Like it's a week before December at this point, isn't it? So I'm slowly getting into the spirit of things.
Well, there's a little, you can't see that on there, but there's a montage. I've got some the fake snow stuff.
Okay.
I've got
in a can.
No. The material thing that I ordered it off AliExpress for like £5. There's stuff a bit everywhere, but yeah, I'll just send it now so you can see and describe it to the people. But it was one of them where I thought, how am I going to make this even more ridiculous and even more Christmassy? And then as these things tend to do, I had this idea in my head, and then I couldn't not do it. So here you go. The things already existed. I just put a base to it. And I mean, I've got to reorganise it a little bit because I've got to get my Christmas training somewhere.
Oh, wow. So Stu's just sent me a picture, and it is a winterscape with some Christmassy Legos, the South Park boys in the middle, because it looks like they're waiting for the bus in South Park. It's that scene, and then there's like a little house play set looking thing. But that, like the actual snow covering thing, looks decent. When you said it was off AliExpress, I thought this is going to look tatty as fucking horrendous, but not at all. That looks all right. That does, Stu. You've done a decent job there.
Yeah, the turtles will have to be relocated for now. But they might have a different place depending on how big the Home Alone house is.
Yeah.
So that could make things move around a bit more. But yeah, it took me. Well, there's still things that've got to go back up the loft in box form. It took me 3 days and about 10 hours altogether to do every room in the house.
So this is why I just do the living room. The rest of the house can, it's not needed. I don't need to be looking at Christmassy shit when I'm at work. So this room here is just comic books and stuff.
The important things.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So as Stu hinted at, we are here to discuss the film event of 2024, Wicked Part 1. Is that hyperbole, Stu, or is this the big one?
Well, when you said about this, about how much they've spent on marketing and stuff, and I remember it being like March, April time, and there were trailers for this in cinemas. I'm sure there was, and it's been 8, and it was like coming this Christmas. And okay, it's a bit far off. I remember having that feeling, and I've spoken to people like yesterday, and no one remembers it. Maybe it's because they're not there as often as we are. And I heard the fact that they had to put a sign up telling people not to sing. Where was that from?
So that was, I think it was the Light up in New Brighton, Ash Dolan's neck of the woods.
Oh, okay. Well, more musical up north apparently than here. But yeah, I haven't seen anything like that before. Especially for something that hasn't been released. If it's like a re-release of something of what we mentioned later on, that I can kind of understand if you want to go and watch a film and not be sang over the top of by some out of tune lunatic, which would be me. And now that I've watched this, but I had no problems. I mean, there was even a baby in there, a woman carrying it as well in her arms. And I thought, oh, this is redemption now for all the times I've mocked you for it. But even the baby didn't make a sound. Not one.
Incredible.
I mean, I couldn't believe it was a PG. I mean, I just presumed that it'd be a 12A or something like that, but no. PG it is, so that means babies. But it was impeccably well behaved, and the first 3 or 4 rows were empty, as you expect. But other than that, it was every single one was taken.
Was it the super screen or was it?
Super screen.
Yeah. So I went to the very first showing, which was it was screen 1, which is one of the smaller ones on the side. So it's not even like the medium-sized one, it's the next one down. And it was full. Even people on the front row, it was full for the first showing, absolutely packed in there. It was amazing. There were a couple arseholes on phones because apparently we can't behave anymore. I've noticed on Twitter there is a trend of people taking a picture of where it comes up with Wicked Part 1 on the screen. That seems to be a trend now to get that screenshot. I don't get it, if I'm honest. But, if we're going to talk about things I don't get, we'll be here all fucking night. So probably better not to go down that.
Sheep are gonna sheep. I mean, I do find it very interesting, though, that it's on the screen, but not one piece of marketing says Part 1 on it.
Yeah. Like, we knew it was Part 1 because we discussed it. But, they haven't done a good job of telling people that if you don't know, you probably aren't going to find it. You're not going to stumble across that information. I have heard interviews because the end of Act 1, the show, and Part 1, the film, they both end at the same point. You can't really get over Defying Gravity without a break because it is such a massive, monumental song. You need a breather after it. So in terms of how they've split it up, I completely agree with it. It's very rare that, like with the Lord of the Rings nonsense, The Hobbit, I don't understand why they put that into 3 parts. Doesn't make any sense to me. This absolutely does. I do have a couple of slight issues with how they've gone about it because I don't feel like it needs to be 2 hours, 40 minutes. They've added little bits into the first act to sort of explain it. So in the play, Elphaba is just part of She's university. She's just there and gets lumbered with Glinda. But in the film, they sort of play it out a little bit and explain why she ends up going there rather than she's just there. And it does make sense, but adding all of these little bit of things in, all of a sudden, this becomes a really bloated runtime. And there were a few moments where I was checking my watch, if I'm honest. It sagged a little bit. at probably about a quarter of the way through and then 3/4 of the way through. Either side of it was fine, but there was every now and again I thought, "You need to tighten this up a little bit because it doesn't need to be nearly 3 hours long."
See, on the complete, I don't know if this is going to be a theme of because I went in knowing, other than that one song that you've just mentioned, I knew nothing whatsoever about this. I haven't read the book, haven't seen the stage show. I knew nothing at all. So I went in as blind as possible and was kind of spellbound for the whole time. And I never once. I mean, there was a few people did like check phones for time, but that was it. Like,
Yeah.
no. I mean, it's more annoying if you got a smartwatch that you look and every time you move your wrist, it lights up. So I've done that myself and I never even considered it. And then I took it off and put it in my pocket because I'm a good boy. But there was a few people who did do that. I mean, mainly towards the end-ish. But I never had an issue with it at all. And I thought I was just completely engrossed by it all. But maybe that is a thing because you know what's coming and you know you're like, let's get there quicker. Come on, let's move it along.
I really think that would be it. I'd love to hear from people who, like yourself, have gone in completely blind versus people who know enough to be dangerous, I think. But whilst you're talking about watches, this is why you invest in a Casio watch. Keep it old school. If you need the time, just press the button for the light. Job done.
That thing looks
They're not
surviving it.
behaving.
Yeah, there's even EMPs can't like, say that thing out.
Absolutely not.
Did you ever have a G-Shock?
No, I didn't. I was looking at one probably about 6 months ago because they've got some ones. Yeah, because they're like Bluetooth capable and stuff. Like it's a brand new model, Bluetooth capability and everything, but it's not like you can read text messages on. It's basic Bluetooth, like counting your steps and that kind of stuff. And I quite like that because I don't want to be, like you say, if you're in the cinema, for example, I don't want to keep vibrating and making noise. It just pisses me off. I can put it on cinema mode, but stuff like that just annoys me. So I loved it way back when, and then having used the smartwatch, I was like, no, I want to keep it analog-ish.
So I used to have a thing with mine because it was remember the really big black bulky ones as well. It had a Velcro wrist strap, and I used to. I don't know why. It's probably oversharing again. But this is one of the things because I used to wear it on a match day, and at the end of the day, before I put it back in its box, I used to like give the little wrist strap a little sniff, just a little one. But then if I did the same to my own wrist, like if it was okay, I knew I didn't have to fish before I went to. And this is in the old days where we used to stay out in the Red Lion after the game, and we go back about 10 o'clock at night, just before match of the day. Yeah, that was G-Shock memories there.
What a day. And the other thing is it's got a stopwatch on it. So this comes with to the football too, because I'm the kind of nerd who likes to time the half. I like to know where I am
On the
in the
screen now.
I can't see that fucking screen. It's too far away from me. Because if I was sat where you were, I'd be okay. But it's just far enough that even with my glasses on, I can't quite make out the numbers.
Can't you see the one on the halfway line?
But that doesn't have the time. That tells you 3:38. It doesn't tell you 38 minutes, 20 seconds of the match have gone.
Sounds like something Dave needs to fix, really.
Yeah, we'll have a word. So yeah, that's why the Casio is multi-purpose. Keeps me going. One thing I did love about Wicked, and I thought it was absolutely fucking brilliant, Cynthia Erivo. I think I've said on this podcast, I've been really fucking worried about the actors in this, Ariana Grande especially. I think she's really nasal when she sings. I don't get why she's so popular. Cynthia Erivo as Alphabet and Ariana Grande as Glinda, I thought were just incredible. Like their voices were amazing, like proper blown away. The first time I ever saw Wicked on the stage, probably about 15 years ago now, I cried when they sang Defying Gravity at the end because the power of the voice was just so moving. And I got the same chills when Cynthia Erivo was doing it on in the film. I thought it was just incredible voice. And a lot of the time I think they get actors in who can act, but probably, their singing's okay. does the job. But actually, they got someone in who can proper belt out these numbers. And all of the songs, they're proper earworms.
Mm.
There's a reason that people love the album dating back to, when it was initially released. It's still listened to regularly. They're great earworms, and they were performed so well that I can see newer people will take to that album as well. Like, that'll be on a lot of Spotify Wrappeds probably in 12 months' time because it's just about to drop for this year. But yeah, I was so impressed with that pair. I thought they were fantastic.
I mean, that's what I did go back, like I said in the screenshots I sent to you yesterday on the way home, where I did start going on a proper show tune mega mix, and a lot of that album was involved in that.
Mm.
And I don't think it's weird because you can compare them to the original two. They're not the same. They're not as powerful. But then again, they're actors. They're not singers. So, and the fact that they apparently recorded it live as is, rather than in the studio and dubbed over the top, which is insane thing to do.
Yeah, that is mental.
And if you actually listen to it, it is just straight from the film. It's not like clipped to certain parts. It's just the audio from the film just taken straight off. So, and even on the IMDb, it says that in the trivia section that he wanted it to do. They wanted to do that, and if it sounds a bit breathy at times, it's because it is. So, if that is true, it's an incredible achievement to get it to be that high quality, and the fact that they are completely going for it. I mean, there's two people in this film who can't sing a note. Well, we'll get into them in a minute. But then too, I couldn't even think that if I'd ever seen Ariana Grande before. When I've heard of,
I know the name because people on Twitter are obsessed with her, but I couldn't tell you a single song she's done. And she might have been a Disney kid, which sort of means nothing over here. So same. I don't know anything of her. I only know of Cynthia Erivo because she was Tony nominated a few years ago. She's a name on Broadway. So I've heard of her, but I don't think I've seen her in anything, prior to this either.
But
so who were the two who you thought couldn't sing a note?
I mean, Jeff. I mean, he can't do it, can he? I mean, the fact that he was cast because he wanted him to do it rather than actually auditioning like everyone else had to. I mean, I get it because it's Jeff Goldblum, but he's funny. And his little tap routine, and I thought him dancing behind the thing with the moon. I thought that was quite funny. But he's just being Jeff Goldblum, isn't he? He's not being the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, I mean, it sort of fits with the character because the wizard is a bit of a shyster. So having that sort of almost sliminess, he's turning the Goldblum up to 11, kind of works well for it, I think.
I mean, it's like he stepped off the set of Chaos and came straight to this because he was the same character, right? But the other one as well, Michelle Yeoh, I thought, even though she's
Madame Horrible.
Yeah, it was a bit
a little bit too talky at times.
Yeah, I thought it was because, but again, because I've got no reference point, I don't know if that was who it's supposed to be, but it just seemed a bit out of place.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I agree on both of those parts. I was kind of surprised by Dinklage. I actually that's a song I don't really like. Something Bad. That's the skip track when you listen to the original soundtrack. It's not really anything. But actually, I thought it was so much better than the original version of it. I thought he did a really good job on it. He managed to convey so much fear in his voice as well when he was talking as Dillamond, the goat. The goat? Or,
goat.
His voice acting in that was absolutely brilliant. Like, we criticize so many actors on their voice acting. He was brilliant. We've criticised him because of how bad he's been. What was that game that he did?
Destiny.
Like, it was the fucking worst thing ever. But, he's clearly learned his lesson and he knows how to do the voice acting there. I thought he was tremendous in it.
Well, even when he was on Hot Ones about a month ago, he seems a different person now compared to when he was a bit of a bellend about 10 years ago. He seems like he's grown as an overall person and a actor in general. So maybe everyone does, and he's in a better place there than he was then. He seemed a lot more chilled out on there than you expect him to be. He seems a bit of a difficult character in the past. Now, not so much so. So, playing the singing goat. But how can you not enjoy yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I didn't like. So Ariana Grande's two buddies who just sort of fart around in the background, they piss me off. They could have just been them off. Like, she needs cronies just to be the mean girl character. I get that. But they just kept interjecting themselves with really shitty, unfunny one-liners. And this is one thing I felt sort of ran through the whole, I can call it a show, the whole film. I don't feel like the gags landed. And I don't know if that's in my audience, but there was like barely a tit at any of the jokes. And like, there's no like thigh slapping gags in it. There's just the odd line here and there that's humorous. But I felt like all of that side of it just fell a little bit flat for me. How was it in your screening for the jokey parts?
Every single one landed.
Did it?
But
So
again,
I wondered if it was the audience or if it was the screen. I couldn't quite figure it out.
because you could be looking at the fact that you watched it in the afternoon and I watched it at 7 o'clock at night. In prime time, people have been to work, it's the weekend. Obviously, I mean, at the very end of the film, there was a couple of guys stood up and one shouted "fabulous." And when the lights kind of came out, they were a gay couple and they had capes on. And then one had a little witch's hat as well, which he very thoughtfully put on afterwards before they walked out. And so it was a very knowing crowd as well. There was not, other than the baby as well, like I mentioned, there was people knew what they're getting into going there, and everything landed. Even the professional Asian guy who's the same in everything, he's always in.
Yeah.
Which is that's what he's cast as. The little looks, and apparently that is a female character that they just changed for the film. Who knows? Apparently that's what IMDb says. So they cast it because they wanted him in it, and him mincing around and doing this little thing. It was funny. And so, yeah, I think like a lot of these things, it has a lot I mean, if you'd watched it about 2 months down the line at home, would you have giggled then? It's one of them things, eh?
I mean, I was the only one giggling at the jokes because I knew they would come in and, I was working myself up for it. But I did feel like I was the only one at points who was enjoying those, or, not necessarily enjoying them, but expecting them, whereas everyone else just felt a little bit flat with it. So I couldn't quite tell. Another thing I thought was flat is the actual visuals of this film. I did have a problem with how it looked. The desaturation of the colours was dreadful. Like, there was parts of it was some of the ugliest shit I've seen this year. There were parts I thought Elphaba looked grey because of how little colour there was in the scene. It was so sort of just completely beige in the backgrounds, especially when they were in and around She's University. It felt so lifeless in parts that visually it did, rather than, the action, I think, managed to elevate it. I found it a very ugly film in parts, quite difficult to watch. I don't really understand how the director didn't use more of a palette of colours, because we're in the land of Oz, for crying out loud. Like, it should be vibrant and big and bright and bold. And the yellow brick road just sort of looked like a brick road. Like, there's nothing that popped for me. I didn't like that. I thought that was quite poor.
Have you watched the trailer since?
I haven't, no.
Just put it on mute, just out of curiosity, because I never had any of this, and it sounds like you could have had a bad screen.
No, because there are definite criticisms of the look of this film. So I've got a tweet from Discussing Films, who's got a quote from John M. Chu, the director. There's colour all over it. I think what we wanted was to do was to immerse the people into Oz, to make it a real place, because it was a fake place. If it was a dream in someone's mind, then the real relationships and the stakes that these two girls are going through wouldn't feel real. So they tried to give it a humanistic hue to the colouring. But we're in Oz. Like, you don't need to make it look like I'm walking down the street in Wolverhampton to make me feel like this is a real film. I know it's not a fucking real film. There's flying monkeys at the end. Like, make it look big and bold and beautiful. And I don't think they did, if I'm honest. I didn't like that. And the fact that he's having to come out and defend it sort of tells me that I don't think he's done a good enough job. And like I said, that like a lot of other critics have criticised it for the same thing as well. I know Clarice Locker had said how good the performances were, but why did it have to look like that? I mean, obviously, sounds like you didn't have a problem with the colouring on it, but yeah, I thought the outside scenes were bland and lifeless, and the inside scenes were so dark and drab that it just felt cave-like in parts.
The only cave-like part was when they were in the barn, and that's to be understandable.
Yeah.
But no, I had the complete opposite sensation. I thought it was, and again, I watched it on super screen, so maybe this has a slight difference. Right, I thought it wasn't Barbie. Let's just get that right.
Yeah.
It wasn't Barbie, but neither was it fucking Blade Runner. It was, I don't know what I expected, but again, because I'm knowing nothing, I was just, okay, this is, and showing Dorothy at the start and everything, it seemed the same. But then you had all of the stuff with it before the flashback even starts and all that kind of thing. I thought, all the pinks and everything, it's all very fabulous. I never had a problem with the colour grading at all. It's just, that's why I said, was it the screen? And we know that some of the things at Cineworld are not great in the smaller ones, especially with black levels. So maybe that'd give it a washed out palette for you. I don't know. But for me personally, I had no issue with it whatsoever. And I'm someone who loves a bit of colour, as anyone can see.
Another criticism that's been doing the rounds. How did you feel about the sound levels? Like, because in mine, it did feel a little bit quiet, but there was also a problem with one of the speakers. So I put it down to that. Like, there was a speaker that you could hear the reverb going just behind me the whole way through. So I put it down to that was popping it. So I didn't really see much of an issue with it personally. But again, John M. Chu, the director, tell your movie theatre to turn it up to a 7. I've gone into a couple of screenings and they are more like a 6.4. If you want it the way it was intended, 7 is the way. That tells me that you haven't fucking done the correct audio editing on this film. If you're saying the cinemas have done it wrong, they've received it and they'll put it on. Plus as well, if you turn it up too loud, you're going to get more reverb on the ones that aren't broken. So to me, that tells me that, again, John Chu has not really done his job here.
It sounds like it was mixed for Dolby Atmos and nothing else. Because again, no issue. But I've had this before where you've watched. I mean, that's why soundbars are so popular. If you watch a film, just any film made there was a sweet spot one between like 20. So say 2008 to 2016. Where if you watch any film made at that time on a normal telly without any headphones or surround sound, you couldn't hear a fucking thing because it was mixed so badly, because it was for Dolby Digital. And it didn't work. Like some Blu-rays you'll see, and then you get to audio options, and you have got stereo on some of them, but you have to put it on stereo because you put it on through Pro Logic or whatever, it doesn't work properly. And maybe that's what's happening here, because you're trying to force something that was designed for something completely different down the passageway of something it doesn't belong in. And again, that's a them problem, not a cinema problem.
Yeah, I think that is potentially one. Like I say, I wasn't 100% because I did have another issue in the room anyway, so I wasn't 100%. But yeah, that's something that's been highlighted. What are you expecting in part 2? As someone who doesn't know, what do you think's happening next? I won't spoil it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to tell you what's coming, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting it to be radicalized. I genuinely don't know. I mean, looking at her being the whole that you got the. I mean, why did the cape below like Superman in Man of Steel? That's one thing.
Yeah.
There was some. I mean, it's fantasy, so it doesn't really matter. And the little tiger cub thing was a bit shit. But then the Dinklage
The
goat,
lion.
yeah, whatever it was, yeah,
It's quite important that it's a lion shoe.
yeah. But you look like a tiger. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I know.
I know. I kind of guessed what that is because
Mhm.
of how he talks about it and where he releases it as well. But you got things like that that looks very bad, and then you got Dinklage goat that was superb. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was a lot of actual practical sets and not just the wraparound screen or everything else. Really good. A lot of the CG was okay. Makeup was fine. But then in the same shot, there's something that looks a bit odd. So, that's not a story beat, but I just want that to be better.
Yeah.
I'm expecting a bit of treachery. I'm expecting something with why. I mean, was that whole thing about her name being said wrong added, or was that a classic?
That's in the play as well. Yeah, she's Garlinda, but Dillerman
Glinda.
couldn't. Because Glinda is all about performative action. Like, she wants people to see she's a good person rather than just being a good person. That's why she changes her name. Because of, obviously, Dillerman being kidnapped.
I mean, I thought actually the whole hair flicking thing and the blonde, I thought that was really, really good. I thought it was really well done, to be fair to her.
I thought they overplayed it. In the play, they do it a couple of times, and it gets a laugh both times. But in this, they did it like 6 or 7. I'm like, tone it down a bit, love. You've gone a bit too far here.
She reminded me of my cousin, which was even funnier.
That helps, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some chicanery with her, I'd say, because she wasn't exactly captured, was she? She could have jumped on the broomstick and flew away, but no. But yeah, I mean, I thought the whole monkey wing thing was a bit terrifying as well, to be honest.
Yeah,
for PG.
quite harrowing, wasn't it? Yeah.
There's him being a bit tortured, but again, they looked okay as well. There's no issue with him. Where you think flying monkeys, this is going to look awful, but no, I thought that was okay.
Did you jump when the flying monkey hit the window? Because I shat myself.
It reminded me of the Resident Evil dog.
Yeah. Was not expecting it at all. It really got me.
Yeah, I thought that whole thing of them running down that corridor with the monkeys jumping at the windows, I thought it was really well done. Yeah, I don't even want to know what to expect for the next one. When have they said when it's going to be yet?
Next year.
Oh,
so it's been filmed. Like, I think they filmed it all in one go, as far as I'm aware. They did the Lord of the Rings thing, and then they're split into 2. I believe anyway. So I think it's going to be next Christmas again. So be back in 12 months' time talking about part 2.
I mean, it does feel very Christmas film. This does. And I don't think if it's just all the whole musical aspect, and well, again, we'll get onto that in a minute. That these kind of things, they're just. Lord of the Rings is always going to be related to Christmas because that's when all of them came out. Even though it's nothing to do with anything about Christmas or even any kind of it's set at Christmas or any of that stuff. There's like the BFG. I think it was on TV once over Christmas one year, and ever since then I've associated BFG with Christmas time.
Yeah, like, isn't there snow in one scene? So it does have a Christmassy feel to it.
Yeah.
Same as Harry Potter as well. Like, I associate Christmas with the Harry Potter films. Whereas like, Lord of the Rings, thinking about it, Lord of the Rings, I agree. It's Christmassy because of when it was released. It's not Christmassy because of the type of film it is.
No. It really doesn't fit at Christmas at all.
No, it doesn't. It's kind of a weird choice because it's got summer blockbuster written all over it to me.
Yeah, whereas this has got, it's family friendly, amazingly. And the fact that there was the whole baby thing is utterly bizarre to me, especially at that time of night. But there were kids in there, and they were about, I'd guess, about 10 years oldish. And this is going to be their so their first Christmas cinema experience. It could well be. I mean, you got the whole thing of people going out on to the cinema on Christmas Eve. That's the thing for a lot of people. They're going to go and see this, and it's going to be a tradition. And I thought they did a really good job.
It's got $165 million worldwide, I believe, and it's been out like at time of recording. It was released Friday, Saturday, and today's Sunday. So, like, actually, I think it was released a week earlier in the States potentially. But either way, like, it's had an incredible run already. I think they're probably going to make, they're going to make all of their money back, all of the advertising, and probably cover the cost of the next film, all in this one. So next year is going to be pure profit from what I can imagine. If this gets less than $1 billion, I'll be kind of surprised because the word of mouth has been so strong, sitting at 90% on Rotten Tomatoes currently. Like, even in spite of some of the small technical issues, I think the performances are so big and beautiful and wonderful. People will be drawn for that, if nothing else. And like, it's a play that's been running on Broadway for 20 years now. It was the 20th anniversary. It turned 20 in June this year. It's an institution, even though it's a modern day musical. So, this is just going to run and run, I think.
Did you know that them two were making a cameo?
I didn't. I expected it, but I didn't know. I was so fucking happy when I saw them. Like, I was beaming. Like, the amount of former Glee cast in this really made me happy, to be fair. As well, because obviously being such a big Glee fan, the fact that Rachel Berry's dad was playing the wizard in this as well, I felt kind of proud. It was lovely. Because obviously originally, when this was first touted as being a film that was going to be made, Lea Michele was like a front runner to be playing Elphaba because she kind of looks like Idina Menzel. Obviously, she played her daughter in Glee. I kind of want to see that film, if I'm honest. And maybe Kurt could be Glinda. Glinda's fuck Kurt. I'd kind of love that, I think.
Is Lea Michele a bit cancelled, though?
They try. But no, cancel Lea Michele. Like, she was in Funny Girl last year. I got to see her on Broadway, and it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible.
Were you in the same dressing room as her? Or was yours became a whore?
That was it, yeah. We next door neighbours. Yeah, it was incredible. So I've got to see her, and I got to see Darren Criss the year before. I got to see Blaine on Broadway. That was great. I want to go and see his new play because he's got one. I think he's written a new one that'll be starting. So that's the plan for next year, is to hopefully get to see him on Broadway again. I just want, every time I go, I just want to see a former Glee cast member, apart from the nonce, to be honest.
Yeah, there's always one who ruins it for everyone.
There is a show that did. I think it's called like The Curse of Glee. Because it is mental how more people have died on Glee than shows that were on in the 90s. Like, 40 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, we've still got full casts out there. But Glee, we've lost 3 so far and counting.
In 15 years? 10, 15 years?
Yeah. Was it 2010? Was it the first one? I can't remember. Gonna have to check that. Glee.
2009.
Glee. 2009. Yeah. So we've lost 3 of them. The one who came in later, who was married to Supergirl, he's been cancelled because he's an abusive piece of shit. So, like, they're not doing too well, the Glee lot. Yeah, time will tell. It needs a rewatch because I did start it before we had issues with our stream. I got like 5 episodes in, and it did get the feels. Like, I was happy to be back at McKinley High.
Melissa Benoist is probably the breakout star for most people of it. If you don't take the Broadway stuff from the TV point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think most people will probably know Melissa. Like, obviously, apart from Jane Levy, Sue Sylvester.
But she was before.
She was massive before. So, yeah, I think The Noist is probably the most known. I bet people won't even know that she was Glee.
Mm.
Grant Gustin as well, obviously Flash. He was,
Yeah.
he wasn't one of the main cast members, but he was one of the Warblers. So there are a couple out there, but yeah. I think Kurt went on to write kids' books, if I remember correctly. I'm sure he's doing that. I don't know about many of the others, though. They need to do a reunion episode.
Yeah. Glee cast.
Yeah, it'd be perfect. So, Stu, are you telling everyone to go and see Wicked?
That's all I was talking about on Saturday before on the journey down to Putney. I mean, the usual things of you like musicals, looking the way I do and the way I act and things.
Yeah.
I went, yes, and I'm like, but really, yeah, I'm not taking the piss. They're amazing, but I can't sing and I can't dance, and I can. I did GCSE drama. That's about it. So I'm never going to be in one. And yeah, we did technical stuff when I was in drama, and we did the lighting and the backdrops and everything like that, the technical side of things, because I wanted to be involved somehow. But yeah, I've always loved musicals, and the fact that I've got a few of them to go and see today, and they've all come back very positive. And you look at Ash's comment reply to me and how he loves it as well, and it's you said it's going to break 1 billion easy. Are we looking at 1.5 by the end of the year?
Potentially. I mean, if it's word of mouth, I could see this running until January, because we're in that corridor, aren't we?
Yeah.
Red One doesn't seem to be making any waves, so something's going to fill the vacuum of the Christmas film. I could see that being Wicked. We had Avatar before. Why? I think this could make 2 billion.
Well, Avatar's great though. That's why.
I mean, I can't comment. I've not seen the sequel. In fairness,
you know what I did think though, with this new obsession with Lego. You know when the train pulled in with all these little gears on the front.
Perfect trains, perfect Lego stuff, isn't it? That
yeah.
Absolutely. I thought exactly the same. They have got some Lego sets. They look a bit shit. I'm really not impressed with.
Yeah, they're the Lego Friends ones. They with the big heads that don't look like Lego.
They're not Lego. They look more like Duplo shit than Lego. I don't like it. Doesn't look right. Isn't it funny how marketing a musical as a musical and it's a success? Like how many times we've spoke about this in the year that musicals don't sell, and the reason is because they trick people into seeing a musical, whereas they've been front and center with this and said it's a musical, and people are there.
Yeah, music. People might not admit to loving musicals, but they'll go and watch them.
I find it weird that people don't like musicals. Like, I know Matt doesn't like it. My other half said she doesn't, but since she's been with me, I've sort of forced her into watching musicals to a degree. So, like, she's softening to it now. I don't understand why people don't like musicals. You like music, you like films. What's wrong?
I think I've had this conversation with people before where it always boils down to it's unrealistic, which has actually been said to me by multiple people. And you're like, well, it's a film. I mean, yeah, but you don't get people don't just break it into song and dance, and everyone doesn't know the dance perfectly or understand in line. Well, yeah, but you don't also have a camera in your face 24/7. Well, you do now. It's a TikTok, fucking hell.
Yeah,
but still, that seems to be the thing that people can't get past that barrier, and it's like it doesn't matter. None of that matters. It's performative. It's supposed to be fantasy.
Fucking, we don't run around being chased by aliens. And yet Ridley Scott's made his nut off of doing 2 very good alien films. So yeah, I don't get it, if I'm honest. It is what it is, I suppose.
And of course it's camp as well.
I mean, it's campus tits, but that makes it fun in my eyes. It's just makes it enjoyable.
I think that's it has got a long way to go with that though, because you look at it and you think, I mean, like the reaction I had. I mean, it was not like slur stuff. It was just unexpected.
Well, let's be honest, like theatre stuff. I mean, I don't know about you, but I did drama as well, and it was kind of like, oh, what are the gays like in the class? there was very much like a homophobic thing about, doing acting and stuff, and it probably still exists to some degree on Broadway and what have you. I imagine that the people who do that, I wonder if they get slurs about homosexuality and stuff. I genuinely think that there probably is a large part of that.
I mean, in my screening, I'd put decent money on that I was the only. Well, because I was on my own as well, which is a bit worrying. So if you're looking at it from everyone else's point of view, there was a lot of couples with families. There's the two that I mentioned with the capes, but there were very few people who looked like us there at all. There was a lot of groups of women together who weren't annoying, thankfully. The one, exactly the ones I mean.
I know exactly what you
Yeah.
mean. Yeah.
None of that, no talking, no nonsense. But there were very few, if any at all, just straight bald white men in there.
That's because I went earlier in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The two in the whole town went at separate times. So yeah, maybe that's a factor as well. But if you don't give a fuck and just do what you want for me and you, then who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We were going to talk about like a few other musicals, but I've sort of changed my mind here because we're 45 minutes in. And all we've done is spoke about Wicked so far. So let's just pick a couple of musicals that I think the best place to start, really, having done Wicked, is Wizard of Oz. Was it 1939? Was it the original? That is like that's a watershed moment in film history. Yeah, 1939. When it comes to film rather than musical, that is like one of the cornerstones of Hollywood in my eyes. It's like the classics classic, Wizard of Oz is.
Yeah, and I've had a kind of, weirdly enough, after how much I've gushed about this so far, I've had a kind of love-hate relationship with Wizard of Oz over the years. I mean, I've gone through periods of absolutely adoring it and watching it over and over again. Then maybe because it burned out and watching it too much, getting kind of sick of it and not wanting to watch it at all.
Yeah.
And then like I haven't probably watched it for probably about 25 years. And yet this made me want to go and watch it again. And you can't fault it, especially from a technical point of view.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
the whole thing of Friend of Dorothy, I presume this comes from this.
Yes. Yeah, it
So,
is.
and the red shoes and the incredible campiness of it all. But it's a technical masterpiece still, nearly 100 years later.
Yeah. So I only found out today. So apparently, in the original book, the shoes are silver, which is why the shoes that Nessa Rose gets are silver in Wicked rather than ruby. So apparently, they changed them to red shoes just to make them pop on the screen. Because obviously, it's one of the very first color films, so they changed it to red to try and use the most of that. So that was quite clever. Like a really good, just something small and pretty much insignificant, really, the colour of someone's shoes. And I've seen so many people on Twitter over the last couple of days complaining that Nessa Rose's shoes were silver and not red. And it turns out like it's had this massive legacy, which should never really have been there. But I thought that was like a nice little tidbit, I thought. But I like the original. I remember the last time I saw it, I was really ill. And I thought I just want something easygoing to watch whilst I was in bed. And that was the last time I watched it. The plan was to put it on whilst I fell asleep. And then like 2 hours later, I was like, this god's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, because you look at the whole themes of that film as well. And I know it's an adaptation and whatever. And the fact that the Wicked is based off the film, not the book. Well, the original film and not the book. And it carries on. But it's a nice homage in a way. Because again, the IMDb trivia page was very much more detailed than I expected about this stuff. And some of the changes that they made, like the shoes, like you just said, to fit it on screen. But yeah, I mean, if someone's top 10 films of all time had The Wizard of Oz in, You can't argue with it.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. You've said it a couple of times. It's a technical marvel. That's exactly what it is. Moving on slightly, Singing in the Rain probably feels like the next film along in that classic era musical, 1952. I can't believe that it's 1952 because it still feels very pertinent to today. I know obviously the methods of making films have changed, but if you were to watch that today, you think, okay, I understand how we got here now. This is classic Hollywood, and it feels right and relevant even now.
Yeah, and again, it's a performance piece, and not so you go from technical marvel to just individual brilliance in this.
Mm.
And I know I take the piss out of it all the time because it winds Tara up, but she's not on Twitter anymore, so it's not as fun. But yeah, again, it was one of my granddad's favorite films. He absolutely loved it, and so it was on all the time as a kid. And it was one of the few ones where the video wore out, and he had to buy another one
Wow,
because the tracking lines had got so bad. He was like watching it with cataracts. He's like watching it through snow.
incredible. I didn't see it until relatively recently, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. Quite new to, like, relatively new to seeing Singing in the Rain, and as soon as I saw it, I can't understand how I've never seen this before.
Mm.
I think I expected it to be, that scene of where, Gene Kelly's doing Singing in the Rain and he's dancing around the park. I thought it was all gonna be that. I thought it was all gonna be romantic, lovey-dovey, they're in the rain, and it's none of that when you actually watch it. Like, I watched it, I was proper tittering along. I was like, "This is genuinely a really funny movie."
Mm.
Just not at all what I expected it to be. I'm so glad that I got out of my own head and didn't go in with any, preconceptions. I just put that to one side and went with the journey, and very funny.
It's feel good.
Yeah, it is. And the fact that it's like, as you said, it's 1952. We had Babylon. Was it last year? It was last year, wasn't it? Babylon. Don't get me wrong, I hated that film. Fucking hated that film. Don't want to get into it because I'd be here for hours. But that is very clearly a play on Singing in the Rain. It mentions Singing in the Rain. It's a homage to stuff like Singing in the Rain. So we are 50, 60, 70 years on, and that's still relevant. That's still a story that they are telling now. I think that's just fantastic. What a legacy that film has had. From 1952, if we move on a few more years, what's the next film we should look at? Cabaret. Have you seen Cabaret?
No, yes.
What do you think?
Um, I'd heard a lot about cabaret, and we did cabaret at school. Well, they did. I didn't. Much to the drama teacher's chagrin, because he was apparently it was too raunchy for copies back in the
I
day.
could imagine.
Um,
Like for school kids.
yeah, there's obviously it's a slightly different version.
Mhm.
And it never appealed to me at all. And I got it. Remember when you used to get a free DVD in the Sunday papers?
Yeah.
It
I had the
Cabaret.
exact same one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I saw it,
Mm.
and I thought this is wonderful.
Mm.
And that's
It
the only copy I've ever watched it on.
Yeah, it must have been like 2006, 2007, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I saw it. It might have been with The Independent or something. I literally bought it because I'm sure they were doing like a series of DVDs, tell like the Ipcris Files and all these other random movies that I'd never seen, and Cabaret was one of them. So yeah, I bought it just to see what Cabaret was about. Because again, I'd heard it and it was about Nazis and all this. And I was like, I don't really think that's going to be the kind of film I'm asked about seeing. And I watched it and I thought, oh, this is amazing. Again, watched it a couple of weeks ago. Still really love it. I'm kind of amazed that that's never been remade for a modern audience.
I don't think you can touch it really.
Hmm. I mean, this
Especially
classic, isn't it? It doesn't need a remake, but it feels like one that always gets spoke about being remade, and then it doesn't.
It's classic. If you put anything about Nazis on, you're automatically going to be in the shit, and there's going to be mentalists all moaning about it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Let alone remaking a film as beloved as that. I mean, like, all of them on that list, they've all. It's like the fans. It's super fans of these films. So
it's true.
You mess with stuff like this, you're not going to get a very welcome reception. So like when remade RoboCop and it was awful. Well, it was a shit RoboCop film. It was a decent film in its own right, but it wasn't RoboCop. You do that to this, to Cabaret, to Les Mis or whatever. Although that we'll come to Les Mis, I presume. I enjoyed the last in a bit.
No, I really like Cabaret, and it is one that's got legs. It was on Broadway. I think it was last year or potentially the year before. There was a revival. They even did at one of the theatres, like the Kit Kat Club, I think is the name of the club, and it's got Stephen Hawkins in Brief History of Time, the guy who won the Oscar. I was going to say Andrew Garfield, but it's not Andrew Garfield. It's the other British actor, Eddie
Redmayne.
Eddie Redmayne, that's the one. I don't know why I blanked when he's there. He was playing the host of the Kit Kat Club. So I saw like some of the YouTube videos of him doing it, and he looked like he was having the time of his life. So again, it's one that I think in theatre land is just a massive, massive hit.
I mean, you mentioned in there, future Sir Andrew Garfield. These Sky adverts. Now, why is he having so much fun in a Sky advert? Why could he not just be bored for once? Why does he have to be so... He's so happy. He's so full of life.
He is having the moment of his career so far, I think. Since Spider-Man No Way Home, I feel like the last couple of years, we've been living in Andrew Garfield's world. Like, everything seems to be, he's having the absolute time of his life. And I'm all for it. He seems like such a good guy. I mean, that clip of him where he's talking to Elmo, I've seen it so many times. And I tear up every time. Like, it's heartbreaking and beautiful and really sweet and kind of uplifting. I've got all the time in the world for Andrew Garfield. I think he seems to be a really good person. And I would be gutted if it turned out he was a wrong un as well, but you could never say never in that world, can you?
I mean, it kind of crossed my mind. I thought, if we are going to have another Bond, it wouldn't be again. If you look at some of the what seem on the face of it mental casting, like Heath Ledger, similar kind of thing, happy guy. Well, from the outside anyway. How is he going to play a very serious role and do it well? That film with him and Florence Pugh looks amazing. I think I can go and watch that on my own. I'll have to wait for that to be at home so I can cry. Oh yeah. But it looks really good, and we've seen him in things before. I think he might have to cut his hair a bit, but I think he could do it.
I think he could do anything he wanted to. He's one of those few actors who I do think has got, a look that can change. Because there aren't many, I think, who can do several different genres. Like, I think Ben Affleck's probably the only one, but I love Ben Affleck, so that's probably why. But I feel like Garfield has that in his locker. I think you could just as easily see him as a super serious FBI agent or this dopey love interest. Like, I feel like he's got the whole range to his capabilities. I think he's a very, very good actor. Even I would probably see him in Bond because it's him. I would give it a chance because he's earned my trust. So, yeah, completely.
There you go, MGM. Get on it.
That's it. If you want my money, get Andrew Garfield in there. Sound of Music. I hate the Sound of Music action. I think it's fucking awful. Don't know what it is. Cannot stand that film. But again, this is in The Wizard of Oz, Cabaret. It's in that sort of upper pantheon of musicals. And for the life of me, I haven't got a clue why, Stu. Can you tell me why it's up there, or are you on my team with this?
The Briley Hills are not alive with the Sound of Music, are they? Very, very niche joke there. Maybe it's the Nazis again. Maybe that's what it is. The whole Von Trapp thing, I generally don't know because it's not really that very good. But again, the whole idea, it's one of them things that it's kind of born into your mind. Like you can't get it out. Like you're talking about the earworms in Wicked. Like all the songs in this, even though you hate Sound of Music, you know them all anyway.
Oh, yeah. Every word to every song. I hate myself for it, but I do know them.
Exactly the same way with Steps and Five. You know all the words, you just don't know how or why.
I don't know all the words to Steps, Stu. That's
So for everyone at home, he just recreated the Andy GIF that was captured when Steps came on in the grain store all them years ago. But I think it's just one of them things that if you look at when was it 60s maybe when it came out
65.
Yeah, so you're looking at 65. You're 20 years on from war. You're still talking about Nazis, but you've got this whole thing about they're fleeing the Alps. It's very bright and picturesque and happy, and there's something about it for a certain. I mean, it's another one where we mentioned earlier about things associated with Christmas that are not Christmas, and this film is always on every year.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that because people watch it every year. So
yeah, I bet it gets really good ratings.
Yeah, it can't cost them that much to put it on every year. Yeah, the ratings are going to be pretty high, but it's a bit. Yeah, it's not one of my favorites. But it was one of my granddad's favorites, and for a certain generation of people, they adore it.
So 1961 was the original, and then 2021 was the remake of West Side Story. Have you seen both versions of that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm still annoyed that didn't win the Oscar. That, for my money, that is the best film of 2021. I said it on this podcast. It should have won it. The fact that I think that was the year that Coda won it, wasn't it? A film that nobody has mentioned since.
That I don't even remember.
I'm still angry.
I know we talked about it on here. I don't remember it. It's gone. Delete. It's one of the sacrifices for my mind. And have I got any impetus to go and watch it again? No.
Like literally all I remember is that Marley Matlin's in it because she's a very famous deaf actor. That's the only thing I remember about it. And Troy Kotsur was in it as well because he's had a little bit of fame following it. But I could tell you nothing else about that story. It's just completely gone. I'm still pissed off that West Side Story didn't win it. That film is outstanding. So I saw that at the cinema, and then like maybe a week later, it was on BBC Two, the original version, and I sat there and watched it again. It's a little bit questionable having a lot of people doing brownface, but it is a very good film nonetheless as well. And again, it's another one. The songs really do pull that musical through, I think. They're so heartfelt, they're so moving, they're so beautiful. And also you've got the other ones that are so fun and vibrant and sexy, and it just makes you want to get involved in it. I really like West Side Story. I love both versions of it as well.
The newer one's better.
Yes, it is better, yeah. But, not to diminish the original, I do think it's still a good film.
No, if we never got half hour ago we were saying, yeah, we don't remake classics. Was West Side Story a classic? Maybe not here. Maybe in America it is.
Yeah.
Not so much here.
Yeah, that's fair.
When that was, is it still on Disney Plus now? It was definitely on one of them straight away, and it was top of the top of their streaming chart straight away. That's where I watched it. I didn't watch it in the cinema, sadly. I watched it at home. But again, got the same reaction. Perfect.
If I remember correctly, because it was Christmas 2021, it was released in the cinema and then released on Disney Plus, like within a week
Yeah,
of each
that
other.
makes sense.
Because I sat like fourth or fifth row in the super screen, so I was really close to the front and the biggest screen that was available, and it was breathtaking. It really was. Like, it's one of my favourite experiences at the cinema. I thought it was just wonderful. And as well, there was no other fucker in there, so it was even better. It was like the perfect day. If we bring it forward a little bit, then, so if we go for the 80s now, Rocky Horror. Actually, I'm not 100% sure what year Rocky Horror was. It might have been 77, thinking about it. 1975, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. This is still in regular rotation, both the album and the film. I still watch this film. Like, I know I've mentioned to you about Little Shop of Horrors. I watch that probably once a month. I think I watch Rocky Horror and probably... I do. It's my go-to. But Rocky Horror is probably once every 3 months. And the album, it's regular. Like, that will probably feature in most of my Spotify Unwrapped.
Do you get your fishnets out every time you watch it?
If I ever got the chance to be Frankenfurter, I would 100% take it. Like, it looks like it's the most fun role that you could do on stage. There aren't many. Like, I went to see Duncan from Blue playing Frankenfurter, and you could tell he was having the time of his life. And it genuinely looks like it's such a fun thing to do. So I'd do it, like, in a heartbeat. It would be brilliant.
Yeah, the fact that it's got that whole thing, and the fact that whenever it's showing anywhere, you just know that everyone, like 90% of the crowd, is going to dress up.
Mm-hmm. I felt like the weirdo not being dressed up when I went.
I think that's the reason I've never gone to watch it, because for this reason, I didn't want to dress up like that. I remember when we were in Blackpool once, of all places, and there were a lot of people in the pub with us who were going to watch it later on that day. But they all looked so happy, like they're having the best time. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, it was a musical that was made for freaks and weirdos, so everyone just embraced it, and I love that. I think that's an absolutely incredible legacy to hold.
And near 50 years later, it's still having the same effect.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll get a re-release next year, with it being the 50th anniversary,
or a remake with Andrew Garfield.
I'd watch it. Yeah, like, it definitely should get upgraded. I mean, I think it's on Blu-ray. I think I've got it on Blu-ray, thinking about it. But we should get a HD super screen. Definitely. Like, I do think it's another one that's got the cultural impact, and Glee did an episode about it, which that's the high watermark of cultural impact for me. So yeah, you are right. 50 years later, and people still adore this. When I went to see it, like, it wasn't young people, because obviously it's a mature age rated, but you could see there were teenagers there, and there were old fuckers there, and everyone in between.
Yeah,
I love that. I think that is just an incredible thing that has just brought everybody together.
Well, you'd legitimately have like 3 generations of the same family going to watch this.
Yeah, easily. Absolutely amazing. So the next one, moving on to 1986, is Little Shop of Horrors. Have you ever seen the original, the 1960 Little Shop of Horrors, which isn't a musical?
No, I
It's a
don't.
Vincent Price movie. So it's a Vincent Price horror film. It's so boring. Like, it looks terrible, and it doesn't really work on any level as a film. I was so disappointed when I watched it, because I love Little Shop of Horrors. I've seen it on stage a couple of times and absolutely just loved it. It's another one like Rocky Horror, where everyone just seems like they're having the most fun doing it. I think because it's not one of these super serious straight plays, that it's a musical that also plays within the form as well. doesn't take itself pompous, that's why, again, this is another one. When I saw it last year on Broadway.
You said it then. When I was on Broadway, you corrected yourself.
Well, it's actually an off-Broadway. There's people from Germany who travelled over because they wanted to see Little Shop of Horrors. Oh, it's just amazing. So you got me from England. There's people who from all across the United States, people from Germany there as well. Like, people just flocking to see it because, again, it's got that comedic element to it that I think a lot of people can embrace. And it's easier watching Little Shop of Horrors than it is something like Funny Girl, which is another thing that I saw and adored. But that's a much more acquired taste. Whereas Little Shop, I think it embraces everybody. And I think The Dentist would be the one performance I would absolutely love to do. I love it. So that's the 80s. Stu, can you think of anything 90s wise when it comes to musicals? Like, I'm trying to think of anything that just springs to mind. I've got one that I'm going to mention. But is there anything that you can think of 90s wise?
I mean, the only one that springs to mind is when you go Disney. We know if we're talking Lion King and Beauty and the Beast and that kind of thing. I know they've had stage shows before and since.
Yeah.
And the so-called the realistic versions of Beauty and the Beast from a few years ago. I actually liked that one.
I know a lot of people Beauty and the Beast, to be honest.
Out of all of them, I thought that was actually really good. But now, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything.
It doesn't feel like it was a particularly musical-friendly decade, does it? Or at least none of it feels like it lasted.
No. The Nirvana effect.
Yeah, it must be it. So the first musical that I remember seeing on the big screen would have been mid-90s. And I think it was like the 20th anniversary of Grease. So I think we could talk about Grease, but we'll do it in that vein, I think. So again, that's another one that's had a long shelf life. What do you think of Grease, though? Because has it aged badly? Like, people do question the morals of it, but it is also a film that's set in the 60s that was done in the late 70s that's adults playing teenagers. So has it aged badly, or is it just it is what it is?
I mean, Grease is the word. Well, what do you say? And it's one of these. Who cares, really? It's set in a certain time period. It's accurate to that time period. You can't go back and change things. It is what it is. It's not saying this is how things should be because they were like this in the past. It's an old film set even further back than. Well, we're probably further away now than it was then. If you look at it that way, I've got no problem with this kind of stuff. It is what it is. When we had this again, this was another one that they did at school. They didn't really shy away from any of the controversial stuff. I know this was in the 90s anyway, when this was happening. But no, I've got no problem with it. And when you've got Grease Megamix that's played at every wedding party, kind of family gathering, any kind of leaving do or wherever you want, is this probably the best or most popular soundtrack of any musical?
It probably is. Like, it's up there with Joy's Bunny, isn't it? When it's, when you're at the family party, It's one of those that, like, everybody knows it. So, yeah, it probably is. Grease 2, better, worse? Like, I'll be honest, I think it's an underrated gem. I think it's a really good film. But I know I'm in the minority there.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than Staying Alive.
God, yeah. Yeah. I love Ray. According to Google, what else have we got that was 90s-ish? Commitments. I mean, that's not really a musical in the traditional sense. It's a film about a band, so there is music in it. I'm not sure I'd class it as a musical,
Mm.
personally. From 1999, South Park, Bigger, Longer, Input. That is one of my favourite films. And actually, the music in it is
Yeah.
really good, in fairness. Like, it's so much better than it has any right to be. The Somewhere Up There, Satan singing that song, it's a moment in musical history.
And everyone had the album as well.
Yeah, they did. I saw it twice in one day and then went and bought the album from HMV at Maryhill. Great day. Muppet Christmas Carol. Yeah. I saw that last year at the cinema, like a couple of days before Christmas, and it was still perfect. Not much else out. According to Google. When was Rent? That's the one I mean, that must have been because I've set up. So Rent is obviously linked to Tick Tick Boom, which was a film out a couple of years ago. That was one that we both loved as well. With our boy, Andrew Garfield, stealing the show in it. So let's jump ahead. Chicago. I only saw this for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and I said to you, I've never seen an actor give their all in a role quite like Catherine Zeta-Jones did in that. I thought she was like one of the best acting performances I've seen from an actor. I thought she gave it her everything. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. When you compare her in this to Rock of Ages, which is a stupid film, and I don't think it's supposed to be taken seriously anyway, and no one in that film takes anything seriously. Even Tom Cruise. But then you've got Russell Brandon, the whole thing about him. So there we are. But yeah, Chicago's great. It's the classy musical, can you say?
Yeah, it probably is. Like, I'm looking at actually, Rent was 2005. Yeah, looking at the top musical picks for the 2000s, Hairspray, Sweeney Todd, Dreamgirls. I mean, that did get some Oscar recognition. Mamma Mia, Moulin Rouge. Like, Chicago does feel like it's the thinking man's musical of this period of time. If you think of a traditional musical rather than, stuff like Almost Famous, which is about a band rather than an actual musical. Yeah, I'd agree with that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and again, it's another one that I'm kind of can't believe I waited as long as I did to give it a go.
Yeah.
Mm. What did you think of Mamma Mia as we're in this period of time?
I enjoyed it in a strange way. But Pierce Brosnan is so bad that he ruins it all. Why is he in it though? He can't sing. He
Very weird.
can't sing anything right. It's I know everyone loves Pierce Brosnan and he looks, I mean, he's aged beautifully. And he thankfully isn't a bellend because that would be quite sad.
Yeah.
And the whole thing when he came out, when there were the usual trolls were kind of saying things about his wife, and she's obviously different now than she was. And he's like, well, who cares? You think, yeah, fair play to you. But he can't sing, so what is it in a musical for? It doesn't make any sense. And they've got people in there who can sing, which makes it even worse.
Yeah, like you've got Meryl Streep, who she's a multi-hyphenate. She can do everything to a very high degree. I like even I was gonna say Julie Andrews, Julie Walters, being like her part and the way she sings, she's very, very good at what she does. But Pierce Brosnan is, yeah, may as well have just got fucking me to be perfect, yeah. Because for his musical talent in it, it was ridiculous. I didn't like the film. I think I thought it was just a boring film. I get high camp and, trash as an art form. I get it, but it didn't work for me. I just didn't enjoy the experience of it. Maybe it was because I saw it years later and someone was telling me how great a film it was and sort of made me watch it.
Mm.
I was the only one in this house of a lot of other people who were loving it, and I just sat there stony faced, like, "What are you talking about? This is dreadful." So that probably
Yeah.
didn't help. Hmm. So we'll move on a little bit to the tens. 2016, Damien Chazelle, La La Land. I mean, I love Ryan Gosling. I love Emma Stone. This is a perfect film. It's a film, when I first saw it, I didn't get it. But when I saw it for the second time, I completely got everything.
It's something that I should absolutely despise. Like, it's so set up for Oscar wankery.
Mhm.
I mean, even though it's self-reflective and all that kind of stuff, it's almost too much. It's like, you know what you're doing here, and everything about it I should hate, but I
Mm.
don't. And it's one of them few films where I watched it, I thought, yeah, this is a masterpiece, actually. I don't know why. No, I suppose the ending's a bit divisive.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know how you can not watch this film and have a smile on your face for the vast majority of it.
Mm. I love the ending of this, but I've seen a lot of people pick the complete opposite, but I think the ending works because it's not happily ever after.
Mm.
And I love the setup of how they move through the different scenes, everything in that musical number leading up to it. I just think it's just I'm 50-50 with Damien Chazelle's film so far, but I think this is his best. And I love Whiplash. I think Whiplash is tremendous, but I think this is his best film. But I do think Gosling and Stone do a lot of the heavy lifting. So apparently, Miles Teller, obviously from Whiplash, and Emma Watson were originally in talks to star. I don't
Mm.
think this film would have worked without that pair.
No.
You need the easy charm of a Ryan Gosling and the manic pixie dream girl of Emma Stone in this one, I think. And yeah, they were born for that, these roles.
And he was, if you remember back then as well, he was pretty serious as well. Like, he wasn't in stupid things like he does now.
Yeah.
But he can do both, so he can pick and choose what he wants to do. But had he really done anything like this then? I can't think of anything really.
I don't think he had. This feels like it was his first foray into fun films. Mm. But yeah, perfect. It's a film I really do have a lot of time for. As we're in this region, how are you feeling about The Greatest Showman?
Now, um, when I think it was the same as you with Mamma Mia, I'd been told it was the greatest thing ever. um, and I watched it and I thought, really? And again, Hugh Jackman being Wolverine and Wolverine singing and still very funny. I just kind of shrugged the first time I watched it. The songs were okay, whatever. But then I watched it again, and I loved it. I don't know how that's possible to go from one extreme to the other. I know we've said before about being in a certain headspace, and if you're not in the right mood for certain things, then you're not going to get any enjoyment out of it. But then you also have The Last Picture House, which is never going to be good ever. So I watched it again just out of curiosity to see if I was wrong, and I was wrong. It's not my favorite musical film of all time. It's not my favorite stage adaptation of all time. But I'll watch it, and in that mega mix that I listened to yesterday, there's a lot of Greatest Showman film songs in there, and they're all bangers.
Now, I don't know if this is surprising or not. I hate this film. I think it's terrible.
Yeah,
I don't think the music's very good. I don't think the songs are even particularly memorable. The only thing that I think the choreography was fantastic. I'll give them that. I thought the film was shit. I don't understand why it is loved. Do not get it in the slightest. I'm not a big Hugh Jackman fan, but I do love Zac Efron, and I think this might be the first time I saw Zendaya, who is someone who's I've got a lot of time for her work. I didn't like this film. It felt borderline exploitative, but it felt like it was pushing all the right buttons to get people's tears without any real depth of anything. Like, it didn't explore P.T. Barnum, because P.T. Barnum was a piece of shit. Like, he wasn't a good human being. And I feel like this just sort of skated over all of that stuff, because we can do a song and dance. I hated it. It didn't work on any level. I've not rewatched it, in fairness, but I think it's a really bad film, and I don't get why it is. 7.5 on IMDb. I mean, the Rotten Tomatoes score, 56%. I get that it's divisive on, between the critics, but yeah, didn't work for me at all, this film.
I think 7.5 is probably about where I am and all. I know what you mean. It's very surface level. There's nothing. You can't do a deep dive into it. It is what it is. It's a proper. Well, it is. It's a show. It's a turn your brain off, enjoy the sparkles. Don't think too deeply about it. I think that's why, because I was going in critically and all that kind of stuff, because of so many people raving about it, and not to be contrary, just to be part of the conversation. And I just never got it. But knowing you won't like it, because you won't change your mind on something like that. But it's very rare where I'll go as 180 as I did on this for anything, and I just did. I don't know why.
Interesting. Bring it a bit more up to date. So it is something that has been going on, time immemorial, but it does feel like there's been more prominence given to stage shows actually being filmed and put on to, either into the cinema, or in the case of Hamilton, onto Disney Plus. I know that we've had it before, because there are copies of Cats that was done on VHS back in the day. But it feels like there's more money out there now in this. Like, Hamilton was the biggest film of the pandemic, wasn't it? It was absolutely huge. And we've had the release of Dear Evan Hansen and The Waitress's musical and all these other things. It feels like there's been more of a ball rolling on getting stage shows on film. How do you feel about that?
It's cheapy. It's cheaper to do. What do you need? 5 cameras. It's already on stage anyway. They're already doing it for a different reason. If you can make that into a film as well, double bubble. I've got no real problem with it. You're never going to replicate it, but in the case of Hamilton, especially at the time, it was nowhere else other than New York, was he? So we especially at that time, especially with lockdowns and all that kind of stuff, you got no chance. Especially with ticket prices at the time as well. It's very exclusive. You're never going to see that cast of people doing Hamilton either. I get it. I've got no real problem with it. And Hamilton is, like, we talked about it enough in our first year and a half of doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Everyone got sick of it. But I was listening to, there's a couple of things coming up last night, and I thought, yeah, it's been long enough now. I need to watch Hamilton again. And it feels, especially if it was still being as frosty as it was last week, it would have felt like the right kind of time with a big hoodie on, sitting at home, not doing anything at all, watching Hamilton. It feels right. You can do it badly, but I think if you've got a good editor and you got people who know what they're doing, then you can get something special, and you don't need to adapt everything. I mean, you just mentioned it. I know we haven't even talked about it. I don't know if it was on the list, because we did it when we actually prepared this show for a change, very briefly, but we did. And we never even mentioned Cats.
No, we didn't. We'll do that now, because that was a few years ago. Yeah. What do you think of Cats?
It's awful, but I I still can't. They must know. It must have been deliberate.
It- he thought that was going to win an Oscar. Like, he legitimately thought that was Oscar worthy. It's is it Toby Hooper? No, not Toby Hooper. Cats 2019, is it sure? Yeah. Cats 2019. Like, look at the fucking cast on that. I mean, Taylor Swift, fair. Judi Dench, Idris Elba, James Corden can fuck off. Jennifer Hudson, Rebel Wilson's in it, Serena McKellen, Jason Derulo. They got proper actors and proper musicians in there. Tom Hooper, not Toby Hooper. That's the Texas Chainsaw guy, isn't it? Toby Hooper. So like, yeah, he genuinely thought this was going to be the next. Tom Hooper won for King's Speech, didn't he? So he thought this was my next Oscar. 2.8 it has got on IMDb. 19%, like 19% is quite high on Rotten Tomatoes. Genuinely kind of surprised at the critics. It's got to be a gag giving that a good. Deborah Ross from The Spectator. The film is flat without any of the camp, kitchen, high energy that characterises the stage show, but its wrongness is nevertheless mesmerising. That's a positive review. This film is shit, but it's so shit you'll enjoy yourself. That's as good as it gets.
But that's why I watched it.
Same. Yeah. It feels honk. Like, it's. I kind of really want to see the butthole version where the cats have got arseholes because that'd be really funny. But apparently, when it was originally rendered, they hadn't set it right, so the cat's feet weren't on the floor or anything. They were floating 5 feet above it. It sounds like this was very much fucked from day one, but they still had high hopes. Like, there's got to be podcasts out there where they've done a deep dive into it because there's a lot wrong with that film, but it's so worth a watch. Obviously, slightly touching on Hamilton. How do you feel about musicals that are sung through? So Hamilton and Les Miserables. So there's no conversation. It's all done in sung form. How do you feel about that? Because again, that's something in theatre land as well. Some people don't like that style of theatre.
And I can understand why people wouldn't like it. It's very niche. It's an acquired taste, I suppose. But is it anymore? I mean, the success of Hamilton had, people do seem to have come around to that way. I think years ago, if you'd have said to 20-year-old me, would you watch a stage show on telly that's got no conversation other than singing in? Even back then, it would probably be a push. But being more open to these things, give it a go. It works. Well, I thought the start of Wicked was a bit like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, is this what this is going to be? Oh, okay. And I fully expected it to be like that because obviously not knowing anything.
Yeah.
And I would have been totally fine with it. Time and place. If it's done well, like everything else, if it's done well, I'll kind of accept whatever you throw at me.
Mm-hmm.
If you do it and it's shit, then it makes no difference what it is.
Yeah, I agree. What did you think of Les Mis? Because I loved it at the time, and I think everybody did. But I feel like it's had a bit of a reprisal the last few years where people don't have the same feelings. It's still a film I do have a lot of love for, though.
I've only ever seen it once.
Okay.
And
Tom Hooper as well, who did Cats, surprisingly enough. I don't think there's a butthole version of Les Miserables, though.
No. And then Les Mis was one that, again, was a school one, so I knew that pretty well. I thought it was really good. I really, as much as you can, enjoy that film. Or that story anyway. Yeah, it was good. It was nothing special. But that was a one-time review from a few years ago. I know I didn't walk out of there going, "Oh, everyone go and watch Les Mis. It's a great adaptation." It's all right. It's decent to watch.
Yeah, I really liked it, and it's one of the few Hugh Jackman films where I don't hate his face in it, so it's got a winner for me there. I love Anne Hathaway, as we spoke about. Samantha Barks, I adore Samantha Barks. I'm so jealous because my other half, Katie, she went to see Frozen on the West End, and Samantha Barks was playing Elsa. Like, I've not seen fucking Samantha Barks, but she's seen it. She doesn't even like fucking musicals. Yeah, so I'm quite jealous of that. Um, it's a tremendous cast. I think everyone does some really good work in that. So yeah, I do like Les Mis. I like sung through. I kind of wonder if a sung through musical might be less of a leap for people who have issues with folks jumping out singing because they're singing all the time. So there's less of that handbrake turn with it. But then you've got to get over it to get into. So I don't know, but be interesting to see. Yeah. Stu, have I missed anything out that is worthy of mention? Anything good?
I mean, there's bound to be something that when we kind of touched on Tick Tick Boom anyway, didn't we? I mean, and that was astonishing when I saw that.
Mm.
It's just because I didn't know he could do it. I don't know why we doubted the man. But was it was Netflix, wasn't he? It was
Netflix,
Netflix film. And I was just kind of in a trance at it. It was so fabulous. And I've said that's so fabulous so many times. The bloke's got me head. But I think that you could put that as the title of this episode because everything in here is all about having a good time. And it's all about the show. And that's what musicals are. That's what they it takes you away from your boredom and your sorrow and all that kind of bullshit. And go and watch some people sing and dance for a bit.
Yeah. It is like it. I don't feel like I've seen. There's got to be some out there, but I don't feel like I've seen a musical and not come away just smiling at the end of it. I always feel happier at the world. There is just something about it that's inviting, and even listening back to just the musical soundtracks and stuff, it gives you that bit of warmth, and that's why I love musicals because they do make you happy and all, teeth and ears and all the good stuff. That's what you want in the world. There's not enough of that. So yeah, lovely. Right,
we go from Wicked to Moana 2 next week.
I was going to say, yeah. What's the plan for the rest of the week? Are you seeing Moana? You've booked Moana, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't booked. Yeah,
late Friday night, so that there'll be no pesky kids around, and I can go on my own, and I'll be looked at.
Well, they're not off, are they, this week?
No, they're not off, but they'll find a way. Like the kid rats.
I'll have to have a look to see what time the showings are, depending on when I go see. Is there anything else out next week? I don't think there is. Is there? I don't think there's much else coming up at the minute. It feels like Wicked is just going to dominate for the next month or so. Yeah, the only thing currently listed is Moana, but 12:40, there should be no little Rugrats. Oh, it's 4DX, so.
Yeah.
Mine's stomach that.
Mine's 9:50 at night.
Dear me. Have you seen the images of Dwayne on the live action Moana?
Oh God. No, I don't care.
I mean, in fairness, you're probably best not to see them because they're clearly taken with a long lens from a mile away. They look horrendous. He looks like he's wearing a shitty wig and he looks like he's wearing a bodysuit. But he probably isn't because he's a massive cunt. But he looks like he is in these images. Doesn't look good. Look, who's asking for a live action version of Moana? Let's be honest. We said it at the time. It doesn't need one. Why are they doing it? I don't know.
I've even bought first time I've done it for a while because they don't sell it anymore. Moana 3D Blu-ray. So I watched it in 3D at a time, but I've never watched it in 3D at home. I know when they up-res it on Disney Plus and it looks ridiculous in 4K.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So I just wonder how well it's gonna. I mean, obviously I've got to do it this week, watch that because it's been a few years since I watched it. In fairness,
Mm.
and Frozen and Tangled and all of them, the good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the one. Because originally I was going to go with it, try and drag Ethan to, and it's just not going to happen. So I can't have Moana spoil for me, so I have to go suck it up.
Have you seen anything else in the last week or two worth a mention?
Been watching I'm a Celeb, obviously. Talisa, just what's she done to herself? I mean, come on.
I haven't seen any, mate. You're talking to yourself on this one.
Yeah, I mean, apparently she had Bell's palsy, but that clears itself up anyway. But she's looked.
Isn't that what JR had? Jim Ross, the wrestling commentator, with like half his face.
Yeah,
like a stroke almost.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that cleared itself up.
Yeah, I mean, I think he
But
probably it comes back later on sometimes. But it's just one of them things. It's not permanent. Oh, it differs between how each person, how long. There's something with Bell's palsy for, but yeah, she had that, and then she's had. I mean, she doesn't look real. She looks like a plastic doll.
Right.
You look at her on X Factor back in the day, and she was stunning. It's just a shame.
Still like being in the spotlight, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you seen Hereditary yet?
No, I haven't. That's
Heretic.
Heretic. I know the one.
Hereditary's the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. We was on about it again yesterday about him, how his renaissance has kind of been out of nowhere as well. But yeah, that is on this because I don't think I'm doing anything at all now next week. Work in the morning as per, but then in the afternoon, I've got a few hours each afternoon now. The weather's so awful. So I've got a few things to tick off the list.
Sounds good. Yeah, go see that. Paddington in Peru. You need to get that one done. That was fun. I don't think Anora is still on, but I think you'd probably enjoy that one. It's an A24 film, so you probably would. Anora. So basically, Anora is a sex worker who falls in love with this 21-year-old who is the son of 2 Russian billionaires. They get married in America. Shit hits the fan. It's a bit of a silly romp running around New York City trying to find a kid. But like there's this air of menace to it. It's grown up, but it's fun as well.
I saw the trailer for this before The Substance, maybe.
Yeah, he would have done. Yeah, I think you'd enjoy Anora. I mean, as you've said before, A24 will very, very rarely miss. So that's good. So yeah, if that is on, I fully recommend you get that one ticked off as well. Don't know if there's much else worthy of mention at the minute though. No. Did you see Red One?
No, I was just about to say Red One needs to be, now Christmas is here. Red One needs to be a priority before it gets taken down.
Ash saw it and said, Stu will love this film.
Yeah, of course I am. We all know.
You are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, right. Next week will be the MusicCast that we've promised several times and keep postponing. So yeah, that's currently the plan. We'll be doing a MusicCast for next week. Right, podcatcher, make sure we're on there. 5-star review would be brilliant. cagefightingpod@gmail.com if you've got any emails, and at cagefightingpod on all of the socials, all of them. Stu, for this week, would you like to say goodbye?
Fabulous darlings. Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me, and remember, be excellent to each other.